We almost did not post this video because we were trying out some different recording equipment and we had some sound technical difficulties. But we put a lot into it and the stuff that it covers is pretty important. So we're just going to leave it here and forgive us for any sound glitches. Hello, my friends. Today I would like to share a fire making skill. I call these Tinder Chimneys. And when you learn this simple technique, it is going to just take your fire making to the next level. If you're a beginner, it's going to help with that most difficult part of fire making, which is getting your tinder bundle right and giving it, well, making it easy to start and also having enough power to start the rest of your fire set. If you're more advanced, this is a skill for when you're in camp. It's a way to safely preserve and have fires ready to go, have tinder bundles essentially ready to go. There's a previous video I did called Fire Bundles, and that video is similar to this, but you'll see the difference and probably why this can be even superior. All right, let's head out into the woods. We're going to find some materials and I'll explain things as we go. This is what I'm looking for. Birch has this interesting property where the bark is extremely rot resistant, but the wood inside is not. So if you look around in any area where there's birch trees, you're often going to find some that does this. When I can squeeze the bark like that, it means that it's still resilient enough. I have a nice tube of bark here, but the wood inside is going to be rotted out, which makes it easy to do this. See how that wood just pulls right out of there? It's all rotten. I have two tubes. Two tubes that are going to be perfect. I want to clean these out. Inside there's going to be an inner bark. That usually contains some moisture, but it clears out very easily. And I want to be left with a nice, clean bark where it has a golden yellowish color. The principle of the tinder chimney is that I'm going to fill this up with a graduated layers of tinder. And when I do this, I'm going to have a largely waterproof, if it's held on its side, tinder bundle that's contained inside of highly flammable material. When I start it at the bottom, it's going to burn up and through, it's going to create a lot of heat, and it's going to be all I need to get that fire started. There's a lot of ways to pack this. One rule or tip is that we don't want to pack it super, super tight. We want there to be enough in there that it's going to get some heat, but a lot of the heat is actually going to come from the bark itself. If we pack it too tight, we won't have that chimney effect that throws the flames up through the top. So we really want to allow some air movement through this. Today I'm going to do 3 layers. I'm looking at the environment around me and seeing what I have. I'm going to do oak leaves on the top, and I'm going to do some grasses, and I'm going to intersperse a little bit of this birch bark in with the oak leaves. I'm going to do grasses in the middle, and in the bottom, that is where I'm going to have the stuff that's going to take. So it's going to be a mixture of some grasses and then some shaved off birch bark. I'm going to begin with oak leaves. Oak leaves are really good burners. If I'm gathering them from the ground, there's going to be moisture content in them. So there's some that are down here. These are going to have more moisture content than others that are floating on top. So I'm going to be looking for the ones that are floating on the top of the debris layer. Even better would be to look around me in the environment. Oh, there's oak leaves that are still in a tree. Those are being held up, dried in the wind, in the sun. Even if it's rained recently, they're going to be much drier than leaves on the ground. Let's gather a few of those. oak leaves I'm going to stuff, I'll crush them a little bit, and stuff them in here. Remember, I'm going to leave some air passage. But I want to have a good amount of these oak leaves and pack them fairly tight on the part that isn't the air passage. I'm often used to being on organic farms of friends where when I want grasses, I can just reach down because there's been mowing and grab huge handfuls. In the woods, it can feel like there's no grasses. But often there's going to be different kinds of grasses that grow in the woods. And even though it might not readily look like it, you can see here a lot of dead grass material. And just by using my fingers as a rake, I can start to gather out and separate some of those dried grasses. Now note that these, if I'm going to dig deep like that, are going to have more moisture than if I rake lightly and take these grasses from the top. So although this would work in a drier environment, I'm going to take a little bit more time and gather these ones that are up on top because it's been raining lately. These are going to be stuffed in as my second layer. I don't have to be a purist if I'm getting here a little twig and some oak leaves and other things. But I want to avoid, a common mistake is to just get too much green in there. Then I'm going to have trouble. Keep the green out. You'll notice I've stuffed it pretty tight, but I'm still leaving air passage in there, making essentially a small little tunnel that the air can travel through. My final layer, I'm going to use a fire steel today, is the stuff that I want to catch from those sparks. So I'm going to make a combination of some crushed up, really dry oak leaves that I get from that tree, and a little bit of the really fine grass that I have here. And then I'm going to shave a little bit of birch to put in there. I'm going to assess my different ingredients here for the lighting portion and see what feels driest. I think I'm going to opt for a combination of the grass and the birch that I shaved off. So there's those really nice dry oak leaves. Crush those up pretty well, and then give them a little breathing space, set them in there. And the birch and the grasses, I'm going to set in there, removing my green. With this final layer, I'm not going to worry about plugging up that hole a little bit because this stuff's going to flash burn really, really quickly. I've created a crappy fire set just to show you how well this works. Usually if we're going to do something this is a modified teepee fire essentially, I'm going to be really, really careful about my layers. I'm going to have that first layer of really, really fine materials and then work my way up. But this is going to have enough firepower essentially that even if I have limited materials like this, just thicker sticks that usually wouldn't take by a standard tinder bundle, it's still going to work. I'm remembering where my hole was. In this case, I had it along this side. So this is important. I'm going to flip it upside down. And I can place it quite close to my fire set. All I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to strike it, and then I'm going to move this and set it up inside so that fire can go shooting straight up into my wood. And here's another advantage of this system. You can see if it was raining on me a little bit, all of my tinder is going to be protected. by the birch bark. Also, for a lot of us, especially if we're beginning to learn these, we're striking and we're not quite sure how to aim it or get it to go. This gives us such a nice target that we can just set right into and fire straight into there. It's going to catch all the sparks in the heat and keep it in there instead of having it spread out as we try to, shoot out randomly at a tinder bundle. At first, what's going to happen is that bottom layer is going to burn, but in a few moments it's going to start to reach up through there. And that airflow is just lifting everything up in that direction. And you can see again, not a very good fire set, but it's easily going to take, because now it's really started to shoot up through there. That is the tinder chimney. If you're going to set up your bushcraft camp, make 5 or 6 of those and just have them there in reserve. Then anytime circumstances, rain, getting back late from hunting because your hunting camp, whatever it's going to be, circumstances make it so that it's difficult to gather regular tinder. You have your tinder ready and waiting. If you're doing a more primitive camp, it also makes sense to have a bunch of these set up because again, they're going to be protected from rain in a way that other things won't. It doesn't make them completely waterproof. You can't leave them just sitting out, but they're at least going to have some ability to shed some rain. And finally, if you're new to fire starting and you've had trouble figuring out how a tinder bundle works, because often getting the packing right is confusing. They'll be packed too loosely and they'll just flash but won't take anything. Doing this, it really helps you to contain the tinder bundle and to aim the tinder bundle. So notice when I set that up, I'm aiming it. I'm aiming that chimney up in the main area where I want the heat to go. The heat's going to disperse because that birch bark is going to burn from the bottom up and around, but as it starts to shoot up, as you saw on the end there, it's really going to concentrate a lot of heat and flame on a single area. So aim it very consciously. Share with me if you've done anything like this before, what your best favorite way is to keep tinder safe and to create the best tinder bundle possible. And I'd also love to hear, and I think it would be interesting, some of the tinder materials that you use in your area. If you're over in Europe, if you're down in the southern United States, up in the northwest United States, Canada, wherever you are, what are your prime materials that you like to use? All right, my friends, thanks much for watching. We'll talk with you soon.